Hey y'all, it's your girl. Hey y'all, it's Angela Sheree, and the ever evolving podcast is what? Back, like we never left, back, and better than ever. Listen, I'm super excited to present a new and improved Angela Sheree, if you will. Listen, I done been through some things. I'm a wife now. I done grew up a little bit. And so you still gonna get me, but you're gonna get a more refined me. But listen, I still haven't gotten there yet, right? We're still evolving. Okay. We're still growing. We're still maturing. We're still learning. And so this season is about walking it out together. I'm sharing my experiences and I'm hoping that it will give you hope and give you encouragement to continue to let the journey flow. Okay. So today is episode 1, and we're talking about fading friendships. Fading friendships. Listen, in the last 2 years, I've experienced a very interesting journey as it pertains to the friendships in my life. I've gained some amazing people, amazing community, and I also have lost a few friends. And although I'm okay with the process, I had to get there, right? The journey of being okay with losing people that you thought would always be there, or the journey of opening yourself back up after you've lost people that you thought would always be there is super interesting. And it takes intentionality to really persevere and press through it. And so we're going to talk about it. Episode 1, fading friendships. Let's walk through it together. All right, let's talk about it. So let's start with exploring the timeline of friendships. I remember growing up in a time where you was friends with your schoolmates or classmates or church members. You were friends with them forever. Okay. You started out being friends because your parents were friends when you were born, and then you just kept the thing going, right? But I am learning that in 2025, friendship timelines look a little different. So let's explore some things, right? So I am learning that in 2025, okay, friendships are defined and they look a lot differently than they did growing up. Okay. I remember growing up and I had built in friends. Okay. I remember my mom and my dad being friends with people they were friends with before I was born. And then once we were born, we just were friends with their kids and so on and so forth. Right. And you built community in that way. But in 2025, I'm starting to notice that friendships look very differently. And a lot of friendships that I know I've experienced have been more under the category of seasonal than they have been lifetime. Not everyone is meant to go the distance. And I am starting to see that for whatever reason, it seems like most people don't have the capacity for long term friendships. And so I want to just start there to kind of redefine and accept, right, that in this day and age, not to say that you won't have amazing friendships and community. I don't want to in any way feel like I'm anti friends, because I'm not. I have some amazing people in my life, but I want us to be honest with the fact that for whatever reason, maybe it's because we're a more digital age and social media is king. And, we went through a freaking pandemic, right? Where we lost touch with personal human interaction. But whatever the reason is, most people that even say they want community, they don't know how to be community. They don't know how to be friends. So I think we have to go into friendships first and foremost, bracing ourselves for the fact that not everyone is meant to go the distance. And most of our friendships in this day and age, they're probably not going to be lifelong. And that's okay. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season, okay? And so I think that we have to embrace and celebrate the seasons of amazing friendships or multiple friendships and having that, and then also be okay with accepting the seasons when they end. I know for myself, I had a hard time with that. I had a hard time embracing when a season ended because I'm a very loyal person. Okay. I don't know if it's just me, but I'm a very loyal person. And it's hard for me to just walk away because it took so much to open up in the first place. Like if I open up and I let you in my life, to close that door is extremely difficult. So in the last 2 years, I've had to be okay with accepting that this friendship is done. This is over with. And there were times where I had conversations, and then there were times where I said, you know what, it just is what it is, and we're gonna go our separate ways in love and in peace and in grace. So let's share some of those signs. Some of the signs a friendship may be ending. Okay, a friendship season may be ending. Number one is constant misalignment or misunderstandings. If you're constantly having to explain yourself to somebody who is supposed to know you, love you, and accept you and respect you, that may be a sign to look at. Why am I constantly having to explain what I meant? Why are you constantly taking what I said the wrong way? You know me. So, constant misalignments or misunderstandings can be a sign that, this friendship may be ending. And it's not, to I guess, bash the person or just not give them any grace, because sometimes there are things that need to be clarified. But I think that shows a lack of healing from the other person if you're always having to explain and clarify. Or what did you mean by that? When you said that, I thought you was being funny. Baby, go heal. Go heal. So, constant misalignments or misunderstandings is one sign that we should look for when we're ending friendships or when friendships begin to fade. A one sided effort is another. One sided effort. I know for me, this was a big one. Okay. Because I was a friend who initiated conversations, initiated outings, got all the friends together. And then when life started to life for me or change for me, and I could not do or be that anymore, I noticed that, wait a minute, I'm not seeing people anymore. I'm not hearing from them anymore. The friend group isn't getting together anymore because, yeah, you were the only one that was putting forth that type of effort. Or even if you're the one that's always calling and checking on and praying for, and you're able to always be there for them, but when it comes to you needing them, it's always an issue. That is one-sided, baby. That's one-sided. And it's okay to be honest with yourself about that. And that does not mean, again, none of these things mean the person is just a bad person or a bad individual. But again, most people don't know how to be friends. I'm telling y'all what I know. Most people don't know how to be there for others. They only know how to take. They haven't explored their healing. They ain't evolving like us, okay? So, constant misalignment or misunderstanding, one-sided effort, and then feeling drained instead of nourished or fed. This is a big one. We talk about energy, but this is a big one. If when you leave their presence or when they leave your presence from an outing or even ending a conversation over the phone or even text message, if you find yourself woe out, okay, every time you deal with this person, that is something to be explored. Okay. I will tell you that having connections and friendships with people that aren't meant to be there, it will drain you. Okay. It will literally feel like it's draining the life out of you. And we have to be mindful and aware of our energy budget. Okay. We are allotted a certain amount of energy to give to ourselves and others and the things that we are called to. And some things just don't deserve a certain level of energy. So if you're finding yourself drained and wore out after every conversation, text message, outing, or whatnot, baby, that may be a sign. Okay. That may be a sign that this friendship may be fading or ending. And so I just wanted to share those things because, again, when it comes to accepting that a friendship may be ending, it is going to require observation. It is going to require evaluation. I do not recommend making a permanent decision about a friendship, especially if it's a friendship that has been one of longevity. I do not recommend just ending it based off of one occurrence or, one situation. I do believe in looking at patterns, and observing, okay, this is something that's continuously happening. So now I need to make a decision about it. One of the main questions as you're reflecting and you're evaluating that you should ask yourself is this friendship still bearing fruit? Is this friendship still bearing fruit? What am I getting from it? What am I adding to it? What are they getting from it? What are they adding? What are they adding to it? Okay. And when you ask yourself that question, again, look over the course of time. Okay. Is this friendship still bearing fruit? Okay. When we started out, we were here. Have we seen progression? Have we seen evolution? Have we seen growth? If we have not seen those things, we need to evaluate if this is a friendship that needs to continue on. Okay. Now, as you're evaluating, okay, eventually you're going to come to an answer. Okay. You're going to get to a point where it's like, okay, a decision has to be made. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people wrestle with as they're making the decision to end a friendship that they've evaluated may not be good for them is seeking closure. That's a big one, right? Should I say something? Should I have the conversation, or should I just let it be? Okay. Should I just cut my losses, block the person, and just move on? And I'm laughing because this closure seeking thing has been a big one for me as well. There were certain friendships that I've lost that I felt the need to have the conversation because of the length of time of the friendship. But there were some offenses that I did not believe warranted a conversation, and so I did not. And that was what felt good to my soul. That is what I felt after I prayed about it and after I did my reflection and evaluation. It's no love lost. There's no beef. There's no issue. But there are some things that are done, some things that are said that, we ain't even got to talk about it. Okay. We ain't got to talk about it. Love you, mean it, but I ain't gonna be able to do it. And so I really struggle with this piece. So it's kind of funny to me now because I wrestled with it for months and even a year for some as to whether or not I would see closure through conversation. I think first of all, we have to start with defining what closure really is. Okay. Sometimes it's internal and it doesn't require a conversation. And for me, again, I had to evaluate, the situation. What happened to get me to this point? Who the person was? Would it be draining or taxing to have a closure conversation? And if I felt like it was, I processed my own closure without a conversation. I just had to do what was best for me. That's the beauty of this, right? The beauty of evaluating these friendships and accepting the closure and all of these things and evaluating, you're doing this for yourself. Let me remind you, let me just give you that tidbit. You're doing what's best for you. Okay. That's the whole purpose of this is I had to determine, are these friendships, do I deserve to be in them? Do they deserve to be my friend? And I know that sounds a little hardy. Okay. I tried to find another way to put it, but I can't. But some things just don't deserve your time, your energy, your love, your effort. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And so you have to evaluate if the closure needs to be internal or a conversation. Because why are you craving closure? Is it necessary? I mean, if this person, slept with your man, what you need closure for, sis? If this person stole from you, bruh, what you need closure from? Like, it is what it is, all right? It's not always necessary. Sometimes you just have to have intentional endings. And intentional endings don't mean that you're ghosting. There's a difference between ghosting. I think ghosting is avoidance and it is immature. But again, there are some offenses. There are some things after reflection. If you really sometimes look at some of these friendships, it'd be like, oh, this person don't like me at all. This person ain't I called them my friend, but they were never my friend. Okay. And when you evaluate that, sometimes you just have to walk away gracefully. And so I like to call that intentional endings rather than ghosting. Okay. Intentional endings again requires evaluation, reflection, and a decision that you're making for the betterment of yourself. Ghosting is whatever. They made me mad. They pissed me off. I don't like what they did. So I'm just going to avoid it. I'm not going to evaluate. I'm not going to check in with myself to figure out why I feel the way I feel. I'm just going to act on impulse. No, we're not talking about that. So again, when it comes to seeking whether something deserves closure or not, figure out why. Why do you need the closure? Make sure that it's something that you can't just, do internally. And if you feel like it's worth the conversation, I encourage you to do so, but not after prayer, thoughtfulness, maybe even some notes. And if you decide that it's not, listen, have your intentional ending, respect yourself, love yourself, do what's best for you, and don't worry about what nobody else think. Okay. Because at the end of the day, one of the main reasons why, aside from this being what's best for you, you're also gaining peace. Okay. Having relationships and friendships that weigh you down and that don't add to you, right? Having those friendships are heavy, they are weighty, and many times they bring us more turmoil than they do peace. All right. And so we have to guard our hearts, as Proverbs 4:23 says. We have to guard our hearts. We have to navigate through this very difficult thing, because let's be clear, navigating through figuring out if you're going to keep friends, certain people around you, is not an easy task. I want to let you know, let's hold space for each other in this moment. This is not an easy thing, right? But if it guards your heart and it brings you peace and you're able to heal, baby, listen, it's worth it. It's worth it. Okay. So if you decide, let's say this, if you decide after evaluation, after, your prayers and your thoughts, if you decide that this friendship requires a closure conversation, and you have the conversation and you find that maybe there was just some misunderstandings, maybe there was something there that you missed, and maybe, it wasn't all bad. Let's talk about that, right? To reconcile or not to reconcile when reconciliation is possible, right? I do believe that reconciliation in relationships and friendships is possible and it is healthy, right? If there is mutual accountability and growth from both sides, and you can have a calm and clear conversation, I do think reconciliation is possible. And I do encourage it. Again, if you evaluated everything and you feel like, you've counted up the cost and it's worth it, I encourage you to reconcile. But it has to be mutual. The accountability can't be, oh, friend, on your end, oh, friend, I misunderstood, I'm sorry, or because there's, in a relationship, in a friendship, there's two people, there's two sides or more, and you have to evaluate both sides. So I will say this, though I encourage reconciliation, I only encourage it if both parties are accountable, if there is mutual accountability. And if you've been around the Ever Evolving podcast any amount of time, you know how important accountability is to me. I don't play that. So if there must be reconciliation, there must also be accountability. There must be some action items that, okay, moving ahead, friend, we're not gonna do this, or I'm gonna communicate this, or whatever the case may be. Like uh um we have to have a strategy for the future, so we don't be we're not coming back to this place. All right, the Bible says also in Romans 12:18, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So making sure that you are living in peace and you are doing all that you can through reconciliation. Don't come at the person wrong if you decide to have the conversation and reconcile. You have to be open to grace. You have to be open to peace. You have to be open to forgiveness. You cannot reconcile and then hold the thing over their head. You cannot reconcile and still be pissed off or bringing it up every time there's an offense. You have to be willing to have peace and move about it in peace and forgive. That conversation, once it ends and you decide to reconcile, do that. Okay. It is an action. You can't just say it and not do it. Okay. So I want to encourage us there. And again, if you decide not to, because of the toxic cycles and repeated hurt and spiritual misalignment, letting go isn't bitterness. Okay. It's wisdom. You're doing what you have to do for yourself. And I encourage you to do that. Through all of this, I want to encourage us all to trust in God with every relationship. All right. Every relationship that we get in, especially in this day and age. Okay. Because mine be ate up. In every relationship, I want to encourage you to be mindful, to be discerning, to proceed with caution. I'm not going to ever tell anybody to close their hearts, even if you've been hurt. I'm not going to tell you to close your heart, but I am going to tell you to guard your heart, as we talked about earlier. And I'm going to encourage you to proceed with caution, discernment, prayer, and evaluation. We should be evaluating from day one. Before you let somebody in your house, before you let somebody in your life, before you tell them all your business, before you make them aware of certain things, you ought to be evaluating and making sure that these people are worthy before you jump into even calling them a friend. Okay. So let's make sure that we keep God and our wisdom intact as it pertains to starting new friendships. Okay. Reflect on your friendships that you're currently wrestling with. Okay. Please, please. Some friendships I've seen be fatal if you are not careful. I've seen some messed up, jacked up stuff on social media. And even I had a homegirl years ago, I've shared this, that went through some things, with friends. So make sure that if you are wrestling with a friendship, there is a reason why, and you need to go ahead and pump the brakes and evaluate why you're wrestling with it and come to a definitive decision. All right. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. I'm a little rusty, y'all, but we're going to get through this first season. I invite you to message me and let me know your biggest takeaway or question. Make sure you also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and stay tuned for the next episode, episode 2, coming soon. All right. Peace.